Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I think Mr. Parrikar does not need any introduction to this audience, at least in Delhi, since he's been here for the past exactly a couple of years ago as Defense Minister. And of course, he can be described in one sentence. He may be a simple man, but he's not a simpleton. And for the last 2 years, he's tried to grasp the intricacies of the Defense Ministry. Not an easy ministry to administer or even head. But let's straight away, without much ado and wasting time, let me just start with a question to him.
Easier to understand Defense Ministry than the defense reporters.
Oh, there you are. It's easier to understand the Defense Ministry than the defense reporters. But that's something that we must ponder about, all of us who report on the ministry daily. Although I no longer do that, which I did earlier. But Mr. Parrikar, I think the foremost question in everybody's mind right now is how are we dealing with this aftermath of the Nagrota attack, and do you think there has to be something that should have been done better or can be done better?
I think we can definitely improve upon it. Probably over a period, some sort of a lethargy has set in. Relaxation, it's obvious. Train. So it is taking some time. It's very painful to see the soldiers dying, but they did it to save kids and families. Otherwise, probably it could have been done without except the initial deaths.
Yes.
But I think we need to think out of box.
Okay.
And I'm very sure that Army is aware of it and they are working on it.
They're also looking for some smart technology to guard the perimeter and all the peripheral security.
Right. Lieutenant General Philip Campo's committee was formed after Pathankot. A lot of people ask me that question, why the recommendations have not been implemented. There are two aspects to it. One is immediately on Pathankot, I had immediately issued direction to carry out security audits. Identify, if you dilute or increase the number, that means dilute the attention, you are likely to falter in places which are very crucial. Right. So I told them, you mark them as very sensitive, less sensitive, and not so sensitive.
Right.
So very sensitive, which are large bases, which are very close to the boundary.
And valuable assets perhaps.
And valuable assets. Maybe closer to a national highway, maybe closer to urban settlement. These are areas which normally can face danger much. So accordingly, bases have been identified, but you can't create infrastructure overnight.
Right.
Secondly, selection of technology is also equally important. So those aspects are already being carried out. And DRDO has been given the task of use of technology. Where it is very sensitive, you use a concrete wall, consortium wire, have a internal road for patrolling,
right.
Put all the kinds of electronic or laser fences other than the physical fences.
Right.
Put proper manpower on the sentry duty. So it's basically based on physical infrastructure, electronic infrastructure, and human infrastructure.
And physical security.
And you deploy based on your needs. That is for the Army to decide.
Sure.
We can only lease the items that can be provided.
So, linked to this is the question, and many critics of yours have spoken or written about this, that what has the surgical strikes achieved? You know, surgical strikes you did, and if you thought that surgical strike is going to change Pakistan's behavior, it has clearly not happened. What's your take on that?
I'll only put it, it has introduced a degree of uncertainty.
The surgical strikes?
Right. In the minds of our adversaries.
Right.
So, obviously, that uncertainty itself creates a lot of decision-making bottlenecks for them.
Right.
You will never know them. In their number of issues, earlier one thing was very sure, that India won't cross.
Yes.
Now that is one thing which is missing. So in strategy and such kind of issues, you need to put in a uncertainty principle
In their minds.
in the minds of your adversaries.
Adversary.
So that has been achieved.
Right.
The nation also felt satisfied with it. It was sort of a continuous insult to be treated like someone comes, hits us, and we can't do anything.
Right.
So the nation psyche also was in a better.
Was satisfied, or maybe
Satisfied
at
or,
least that urge to take some revenge was satisfied, is what you. Yeah.
Though that was not the exact reason, but a confidence building measure, it was a good.
Was taken. Right. You've been in the saddle at the Defense Ministry for 2 years now. What has been your greatest challenge?
I think the ministry is not understood in terms of its spread.
Right.
Probably after 2 years also, the full spread is not 100% clear to me. It has a huge cover, and people, common man, thinks defense ministry has only the border, at the most cantonment and procurement, because these are the three issues which are always on focus. Procurement is focused mostly because of some speed money or kickbacks, big news comes. Border is in focus because obviously because of terrorist and
Activities and attacks.
and cross-border violation. And cantonment sometimes comes into limelight because there are roads closed by the army.
The land issues also come in there.
Land issues also come, construction next to the cantonment board comes.
Right.
Normally people think that these are the only three areas of army, and then if you ask them more, they realize that there is an NCC. They realize, some of them realize there is a canteen. Some people realize that there are some dozens of mountaineering and other institutions.
Right.
Some people realize that army has huge number of training institutions. People realize that they have docks,
Right.
horses, cavalry, polo, then
Sports.
sailing,
Yeah.
sports, Olympic medalist. I can go on and go on and go on.
Right.
You'll realize that its spread is so vast, ordnance factory boards, defense PSU.
Yeah.
So it's a very complicated department
Correct.
and needs a lot of attention which it did not receive for quite some time.
Okay.
So issues had piled up. Like for example, matter of national highways and state highways, NOCs required from army side
Yeah.
was blocking many important widening of any important national highways. Maybe 20 years back, 2 lane was sufficient. Today people want 6 lane.
Right.
Some places they go for a flyover. If I'm not mistaken, must have cleared somewhere around 62 cases. The only issue which comes to my mind immediately, which is really pending, is Dholakua,
Dholakua.
which should get cleared in maybe another 4 to 6 weeks.
That should be a good news for the Delhiites at least here.
Because they all know what kind of traffic jam it
Traffic
is.
jam is in Dholakua, yes.
And we are sorting it out. There are
Right.
some small concerns which are being addressed.
Okay. So, like you said, it's very complicated. But when you look at many of the things that you've started changing or have tried to change in terms of procurement, acquisitions, how has the response been both by the uniform bureaucracy as well as the civil bureaucracy?
Change is not easy to adapt, even for a common civilian.
Right.
And it is said that army, what is more difficult than to give new idea is to change the old idea.
Right.
So traditions are very important in army and they have meaning.
Yes.
So last year some mild changes in beating retreat. I must have received about at least 30-40 letters saying that why someone wants to change the army's tradition.
Okay.
So there are kind of reactions. And obviously there are reasons why they are maintained. Traditions are very important because sacrificing your life itself depends on many of these emotional attachments.
Absolutely.
So those changes in a stepped manner needs to be carried out.
Right.
And I think mindset in areas which is not directly with armed forces life is very important. I think the major achievement I have been able to do is made many of them to think out of box, which they otherwise, because I asked them only one question, because I had read about Operation Hajipir when I was in InterScience. And if I am not
The
mistaken,
1965 war,
65 war.
Yeah.
In my college days, there was a chapter on that, how it was won.
Yes.
And I remember it was raining, pouring,
Yes.
and probably climbing slopes, slipping down. How did you manage for 72 hours?
It was very audacious operation, certainly.
One of the person told me because they didn't, they were not able to establish radio contact with the headquarters.
Right.
I said that means you thought out of box. In acquisition also think like that. And I think I got my message across.
Right.
And many good things are happening and they are only initiating.
So that brings me to one of the first questions from the audience, from Sunil Sharma, who says, hope you are clearing backlog created by UPA government in the last 10 years with respect to ordering, upgrading of weaponry for Indian Army and Indian military.
Obviously, but problem is I can't clear all the bottleneck or backlog, because if I do that, then next year there won't be budget for sustaining it. What we order today has to be catered for next 5 to 7 years or 10 years. So I have laid down a financial plan with what is, while I will be very happy to have 3% of GDP, it can't be done overnight.
Right.
The nation's...
You mean the budget, the military budget you're talking about? 3%.
I'm talking about military budget.
Right.
Maybe some of the 1,000 rupee note or 500 rupees note can fill in the gap. But a lot of suggestions come to me saying that you announce a fund for army's acquisition where people with 1,000 or 500 can deposit like temple hundis. But I think the economy will be able to generate some cash. And we have to plan based on this aspect also.
Right.
But I can tell you this much with certainty that the cost of acquisition is definitely and surely coming down. You know the reason for it. There are systems which are sometimes cheaper by 10%, 5%, 20%. But in one case, I saw the price dropping to 1/5, 20%. So the kind of markup which probably existed.
And why did it exist?
I don't want to comment much. People know so many about things about Pilatus, Emperor and other things. I don't have to comment on it. There are many things which people know may be very difficult to prove because of complexities of such transactions.
Sure.
But I think you can understand the difference. We have started clearing and by fiscal year 2016-17, I should be able to sign around 3 lakh crores worth of contracts in less than 3 years.
Less than 3 years. So that is the planning
We are already touching, if you take Goa shipyard, 32,000, then we are touching 2,50,000.
2,50,000. That's a huge amount of orders that you've got in pipeline. That's true. But also your emphasis on not just Make in India, but a new category that you introduced in acquisition called the IDDM, indigenously designed, developed and manufactured.
It also has a concept of Make in India.
Right.
You have to ultimately make it in India only. But if you have designed the product in India, if you have developed the product in India, then you can come under this category with 40% make component.
Right.
But if you have not designed it, borrowed the design or purchased the design from someone else, then you will have to go for 60% component which are indigenously manufactured. That's why under IDDM, we have already given approval for Tejas Mark 1A,
Correct.
which has all Derby missile fitted, where we expect around 55 to 60% of the component, other than the weaponry, 60%
Right.
to be indigenous. We have also approved LCH, Light Combat Helicopter, under this category.
Right.
And in coming days, there will be more of these categories coming. See, I had a backlog of more than 5,83,000 crores of orders. Some of them more than 10, 12 years old. We scrutinized everything, got about 72 of them weeded out.
The AONs you're talking about, acceptance of
AONs,
necessity.
Acceptance of necessity. They were weeded out because they were no more required. They
Right.
were out of date, or meantime we have done something by which their requirement
Overcome
had
the-
vanished. Army itself did the exercise,
Right.
reduced the number, cleared many of them,
Right.
and I think almost about 70 cases are in process of being finalized or in the last phase of finalization.
Sure.
For the first time, we have procured bulletproof jacket, plus we are additionally in the process of procuring more. with
And
the
this is
latest-
almost after 10 years,
Huh.
bulletproof
we
jackets.
We have signed contract for, if I'm not mistaken, we have signed it, for the bulletproof helmet.
Right.
First time, 2 varieties of gun, including a light combat, light howitzer,
Yeah, M777.
M777. A lot of people ask me question that why this has to be purchased. It's obviously because this is 4.4 tons in weight,
Yes.
much lighter
To be
than the
carried
standard one. And if it has to be carried between the mountains in Arunachal area,
Or in Ladakh.
with Chinook, as they call it, hang it from the Chinook,
Yes. Underslung.
underslung.
Yes.
Right.
That's
You can carry it across.
True.
So these are the ones which were required for us. In future, we will manufacture them.
Okay.
As of now, integration is being done in India.
Yes.
But future, it need not be imported. There are Indian companies which have already developed this, but they are in trial phase. If I wait for them totally, then I'll take another 4-5 years to
Which you cannot afford to wait
which
really.
I can't afford. So we
Right.
introduced. Dhanush is already introduced.
Dhanush is already.
Then SP track howitzer
Yes.
is in the extremely final phase of financial approval.
Right.
So maybe by December end, we should be able to
The SP, the
click
self-propelled
the
track that you're talking
self-propelled
about.
howitzer.
Yes. That I think
So
answers.
this is a first instance
Yes.
where a LCA is being introduced, which is in Make in India after
Right.
33 years.
Yes.
Howitzers are being introduced, and there are many more.
After Bofors, yes.
I can go
Yeah.
on listing.
No, we don't need that entire list. I'm sure
They have
people
put
will
up
get
a-
that. But
Alarm clock here. So I
yes, no. In fact, your answer actually satisfies perhaps Mr. G.B. Bagai, who had asked about bulletproof jackets and vestes and
We have purchased
and helmets
50,000 bulletproof jackets.
in
But
fast
with
track.
the reason it was getting derailed was because from the old SQRs, 734 or something, we have shifted to 1438,
Right.
new GSQRs.
So-
So every time you go for RFP, they were getting derailed. And
Right.
the new GSQR required shooting from 5 meters range. Initially, there were no bullets and the equipments to fire,
Or
with
test it.
whatever velocity you required.
Sure.
Finally, we managed to get them, got it approved, and then they have been
Yes.
now tendered.
Absolutely. There is one question from Air Marshal Dheeraj Kukreja, who's a veteran who's retired. He says smart fence was actually looked at almost 7 years ago when he was still in service. Obviously, they have not been implemented, the planning for smart fencing around the air bases.
In the army itself is so delayed that finally I had myself introduced 3 or 4 different types of fences through various people whom I know,
Yeah.
and asked them to take small trials, maybe a 50 lakhs order.
Yeah.
But they have so massive procedure that they were not successful. So finally what I have done, I have asked DRDO to carry out some 4 or 5 bases to be wire fenced with the different kind. There are microwave laser, the, various smart fences based on vibration, picking up vibrations, then CCTV cameras, all kinds of mechanisms. CCTV cameras which will pick up movement even at 1 kilometer distance at night. But somehow this mechanism which was which exists did not permit a quick procurement. And here it is not me.
Yeah.
Because I gave, for example, Northern Command 400 crores.
That Army Commander's powers.
From 100 to 400 straight.
Right.
But I find that there are still resistance at various levels.
So that is
not being really utilized for, and if there are difficulties, I told them many times, come back to me. We'll sit and work out. Some difficulties have been worked out already.
Right. Now, this is an interesting question.
We have, I'll add up there.
Yeah.
The biggest achievement I have got is change in mindset and reduce the doubt factor.
Doubt factor.
Start doubting everyone.
Yeah.
Someone sends you a file recommending single vendor, that means इसने किसी ने पैसे खाए हैं. ऐसा हर एक को ऊपर जाते जाते लगता है. This is a feeling which was existing. I think I have changed this parameter to a large extent. You don't doubt. If you have a question, it can be raised.
Yes.
But question raised out of genuine not understanding or a gap.
Right.
And a question raised out of no confidence have two different impact.
Right.
A no confidence question is never answered. You go on raising queries.
Okay.
A question where you really want information is satisfied many times.
Many of the things that you are saying are something that are very small incremental changes, but like you said, it's a complex ministry and complex processes. People are also asking that how the surgical strikes, are you considering more surgical strikes against Pakistan? Now, I don't think this is an answer which...
There is a famous principle, Pauli's principle in science, where it is called as a principle of uncertainty. I think a principle of uncertainty should be allowed to operate. That would be beneficial to all of us.
Okay. But again, people are coming back to this question all the time, so I'm just going to take one more of that question. Harinder Baveja of Hindustan Times says, Omar Abdullah says, scale down the rhetoric. No need to make statements which will provoke the Pakistanis. Why are we doing that?
I think no one has made a statement. That's why I said it was difficult for me to understand defense ministry than the defense correspondent. I'll put it correct. Reporters, not only defense. Probably defense fellows understand, but the others. Like for example, last 2-3 weeks I'm seeing, now I'm going back today to Goa because there's an election which is coming. And obviously there's a lot of campaigning which has started and they expect me for this campaigning.
Right.
I go there for campaigning and make speeches which are in Konkani, my own language.
Right.
Every language has its own flavor. I find many of the reporters, intentionally or unintentionally, translating word to word what I say. You can't translate. If you start translating Punjabi
into English,
I think it will be the most vulgar translation.
So, again,
I have a Punjabi friend, वो घर में क्या बोलता है, सब पूरा उसका शुरू माँ बहन इससे ही शुरू होता है. अभी इससे भी controversy हो सकती है. I hope reporters really understand me. We in Goa, as we call it, are slightly larg. Larg means large-hearted. We use some Portuguese word. It's L-A-R-G, but pronounced as larg. So it's large-hearted. And we take comedy on self also with grace.
Sarcastic about yourself.
You can become in a family itself, the words used are also quite loose. Of course, we can't beat Punjab on that. I hope Punjabis take it as a compliment. No, it is a compliment. No. You have a free, don't overdo it.
Yeah, they're light, absolutely. No, I
But
understand that.
we tend to be humorous.
It is clear that...
And I always remember and thought that army has a lot of humor because right from childhood I've been reading humor in uniform on Reader's Digest. And now in that army's Maruf Raza, kaun sa book hai?
Salute.
नहीं, his original.
अच्छा, okay.
तो उसमें भी आता है.
Fauji India.
Fauji,
Yeah, Fauji India.
right. So I pre-assume that.
But I think you have been misunderstood many a times the
Go
way
Delhi, if I go humorous,
Right.
the next day it become quite humorous for me to listen to what the people say.
Yeah, I agree.
The TV.
That's true. So, now that you're talking about the army and its traditions, there is also this feeling that army should always, not a feeling, it's a must, it's a given that army should be kept away from politics. But of late we are seeing some political parties and now the controversy which has happened. I think you have replied in Parliament today. But
Yeah, I think army should be kept away from political and also should be kept away from certain decisions which has a political connotations.
Right.
I don't want to get indulged into that. Even the decision,
Yeah.
for example, for surgical strike, where to do it, how to do it, that smaller tuning
The
definitely
intricacies.
was done by the concerned
Command.
commandos and the concerned commanders.
Right.
We gave a mota
Direction.
approval, direction, we owned it,
Yes.
and we also prepared for any kind of eventuality.
Right.
So basically the political leadership should be there to take responsibility.
Absolutely.
When everyone asked me, why are you taking credit? I said, I'm not taking credit for surgical strike. That belongs to army.
Sure.
But I should at least take credit for my capacity to take a decision.
Right. That's true. So,
Because
I think that must be
had
admired.
something gone wrong,
Yes, it would have been on your head and I think the government's, the Prime Minister's head if something had gone wrong.
a lot of people demand my resignation after I conducted this good, I got it conducted through army, a good exercise. They also would have demanded other way also.
Right. That would have happened. So, but you also have said that there will be accountability fixed if there are lapses, which I think that message has
Everyone, if suppose I have done some lapse, I have to pay for it.
Right.
So even if there are lapses, they need to be tackled properly. You can't afford because ultimately I was reading, in fact, I was reading a Marathi translation by Major General Bahuja, forgot the name of the author.
Okay.
It's a Marathi translation on Kargil. And one Naga and all that initial trauma.
Yes.
When I saw, I realized that even without reading that, many of the factors which the army faced at that time,
At Kargil.
probably we had taken care during last month, in the month of September.
Right.
In fact, I was after armed forces. See, when things happened in Northeast, many people asked our ministers this question or our spokesperson.
Right.
अरे वो नॉर्थ ईस्ट में आप लोगों ने कर दिया
म्यांमार।
ये बॉर्डर पे पूर्व बॉर्डर पे पश्चिम बॉर्डर पे करोगे क्या?
Exactly. After Myanmar operation.
And I saw many of them sort of hesitating before they gave answer.
Right.
So I told army that time itself that हम लोग तैयारी करनी चाहिए. जो हमारी तैयारी की हुई तैयारी हम लोगों ने खराब कर डाली है.
Right.
Let us practice it again. You will improve stepwise, and probably that was a good instruction. And time and again I was asking on that, taking review.
But again, that statement of yours was mistaken and sort of misrepresented, where people said that you awakened the army and their powers.
It was not like that. I think the story was not understood, but I will not repeat it because I don't want to, because someone also told me that how you are comparing army with a Hindu god.
Yes, that was also there. So, but anyway, I think people have
I don't
understood.
want to go into that.
Surgical surgical strike.
But I saw in many of the regiments, the shouting they do is based on a basically Harara Mahadev. उस समय कोई Hindu, Catholic, Muslim कोई देखता नहीं. That is a link. But what I said
That's the war
is
cry.
the power always existed. But someone has to tell that you have to use your power.
Sure.
That is a political leadership which does it.
Absolutely.
Actually, it was meant in that way. I don't want to repeat it because...
No, I understand. I think we have
some
time for
people-
last two questions. One is, of course, I think we're just running out of time. We're just about 3 minutes away from thing. One question, one question from another reporter who covers defense, Rahul Singh. Well, you'll have to tell the organizers, but I'll give you a chance, sir. Just let me get over this answer,
Quickly.
or this question quickly. He says, when are you going to name the two new chiefs for Air Force and the Army? And because normally they are
Very
done...
soon. I don't see this reason why it should has to be 2 months or something like that. It has to be out of the top people.
Yes.
And they are all the time alert on their senior military leaders.
Yes.
Should be in
Soon.
very soon.
Okay. I don't want you to say... and then one question before I
It has
come to you,
be,
sir.
Approved by the ACC and
The ACC and the highest political authority. There is one question from Ashok Atluri. He says, you have fixed a target of 2 billion.
defense side we have done the exercise.
You have done the exercise from defense side. Rahul, that's the answer for you. From defense side, the exercise to choose the next chief has been done. It's now up to the ACC to name the person.
They have to also
They have to do
go
that.
through it.
There's a question from Ashok Atluri which says you fixed a target of 2 billion for IDDM products exports from India. Are you on track to do that?
I'm sure, because if anyone watches the international market, they will realize many of the countries offer various kinds of export support for arms industry.
Right.
India has started that activity with our friendly nations. We are offering line of credit to many of them.
Yes.
Obviously, the requirement is you take from our industry. They are also interested.
Sure.
In some cases, we are ready to even give them up to a limited technology also.
Okay.
I think it should take off. In fact, the orders which are being exported are moving upward.
Right. So I give you the last word, but quickly, I have 30 seconds for you.
Manoharji, after you taking over as defense minister, there is lot of updation of armament, there is innovative armament, but it is being publicly announced in the process that the techniques are also displayed on TV, on common media, with the result that the opponents take bad use of it.
Okay, the question is that why publicly the ministry...
First of all, number one, there are many reporters, some of them may be here also, who possibly get information even before me. Like, for example,
That's a tribute to them.
we got 777 approved in the CCS. I knew that, but I was in Bangladesh yesterday and had no knowledge that it was actually signed.
Right.
Today morning when I saw in the paper that they have been signed and checked up day for yesterday's copy, there were clear speculation that it will be signed tomorrow.
Right.
So, number one. Number two, I will like, with due respect, if I don't give any information or media does not give, in fact, they give it they pick it up from Jains, they pick it up from international available documents. Telling someone how a gun fires and what radar system it has doesn't make much difference, because ultimately the technology is so advanced that everyone knows how IIR seeker functions, for example. But you can't prevent a missile chasing you.
Yeah.
In fact, the movie I was watching, London is Down or something, in which the American president's helicopter is hit by an Stinger missile. And one after another, they just can't avoid it in spite of flares and
Whatever the
technologies have gone
countermeasures.
beyond flares now. Technology is now so advanced that they can detect which are the flares and which is the original equipment.
Sure. So anyway, the point is that I think you made the ministries functioning transparent, and you would like to function it in the same way, I guess, as you go forward.
I want to make it not only functional, transparent, but also all inclusive. There is a feeling that armed forces are not given its due.
Right.
I will ensure that slowly but surely they will also become part of the ministry. You
Part of the decision making.
You can't leave a
Yes.
section which actually being asked to
Fight the
work on what we decide totally.
Right.
But it can be through a mutual understanding,
Sure.
not through an atmosphere where some people try to create. Like for example, कुछ हो गया कि जो मतलब they beat everyone hollow. They go beyond Goa, Punjab.
Right.
They abuse
Absolutely.
all.
And the civil-military
And,
relations come in there and that kind of
They
thing.
also create a very bad blood.
Yes.
They abuse bureaucrats.
Yes.
Ultimately, that bureaucrat only has to work out OGL or DGL or whatever you call it.
Sure.
If it's not
That's right.
proper, so getting them together, understanding, make them understand each other is a target which I have
Which you have.
during the next,
The next 2.5 years.
2017. Not I don't require 2.5 years, but maybe in first half of
2017.
I always set myself a
target.
difficult task.
Right.
A lot of people say that he said 6 months, but he took 8 months.
Yes.
But if I had not said 6 months, probably it would have taken 2 years.
2 years.
They also don't ask why earlier one didn't do it for 10
10
years.
years. Yeah. So on that note, I think Defense Minister, we must thank you for very candid and transparent answers. And on that note,
I
times.
hope it is non-controversial.
Not controversial. I hope it's not controversial. The reporters will have to answer that. Let us see what the headlines bring tomorrow. But I must thank you for this and thank the audience for being very patient. The time's up, as they tell us. So thank you very much. Thank you.